Hola, hola. Top voice. Top voice, guys. I'm gonna have to start standing for these videos 'cause it's very hard to sing big and loud sitting down in this swivel chair. So if I move around, bear with me. It's been a while because, well, it doesn't matter. It's been a while. So we pretty much went over some core exercises that I think are good for coordinating the bottom and the middle. And now we need to move on to the hardest thing for men to achieve in opera, which is successfully coordinating this upper third of their voice and being able to consistently deliver that in repertoire across vowel sounds. And along with it being muscularly demanding and difficult to coordinate and a foreign feeling relative to the other two registers, it also is very much impossible for young singers to sing in a consistent and coordinated top voice, like below the age of 25 at least, because you have hyaline cartilage in your throat that needs to ossify, and it does with men in their 30s, but it needs to ossify in order for you to be able to consistently deliver those kinds of tones. So there's a faith factor, because it's very easy to lose faith when you're 20 and you go up to make a sound, an ah turn in top voice, and it kind of feels like this. Ah, it's like, oh my God, what just happened? Or to describe the sensation when you're first starting is almost difficult to remember, but it's like, it's not working. Like, there's sound that's emitting, but you can feel it's not working. So you got to have this faith. And I would direct you to the Pavarotti chapter in Great Singers on Great Singing to talk about this, to read a good discussion about sticking with it. And he describes it as feeling a strangle in the throat when you're singing, which maybe that's one way to describe it. I don't know if I would say strangle as much as I would say just it's bad. It feels bad, it's bad, and it's uncoordinated and it's inconsistent, and you can't just deliver it over and over again. And it goes back into this funnel. Like at the end of the Counts aria, when I was young and I was trying to sing it, the best results would be something like this. Even that felt actually hard to mimic. That felt even brighter than what it used to be. Because your throat's just not ready for it. It's not even the musculature as much. I mean, the muscles aren't that big in your throat, so like the amount of time it takes to train them to have stamina and strength, it's going to happen within an undergraduate time frame. If you've been singing for longer than that, it'll probably have happened, been very strong for a while. But you can't force that cartilage to ossify prematurely. But once it does, you're gonna have an easier time, so long as you've been practicing the fundamentals of top for a while. So language first. I'm using top voice right now. Some people call it gear 3. Some people call it head voice. I don't love that. The cover, the cupo, maybe. But it's all in an effort to describe the real thing that's happening in your chords and your laryngeal shape, which is that it readjusts for a new register. There's a new type of adduction and there's a new length on the chords when you're in top voice. So it is a real physiological event, and acoustically it's somewhat dramatic. And in terms of the kinds of modifications you need to make vowel-wise, it's somewhat more dramatic than what you're doing in middle voice, because it gets very neutral. You can't really be pure about it, which is a hard thing to get over. So, where's a good starting point? Well, let's talk about these aren't necessarily exercises. Well, the second one's going to be an exercise. The first part of the discussion is more about, like, what's the easiest way for a male to start to understand when he's in top voice even. A somewhat tried and true method is to make him sing closed vowels, because those will hold a little bit easier and they'll turn a little bit lower. So rather than making a guy sing maybe an F natural, a baritone, an F natural, you might make him sing a D natural on A. You might tell him to sing a closed A. Let's do like a German phrase on an arpeggio. Der Seele, der Seele. Now he will have already been in top voice on that second note, the D natural, provided that he has the coordination to sing a closed A on a D natural, which not everybody does, believe it or not. Or if he's got a good oo vowel, you can do E is another one. The tree is green. You could do a German O as well. Let's think of a good phrase. Der rote Kopf. I think it would be roten Kopf, but nevertheless. So that's one way to start them off. And the principle that's going to apply to all the vowel sounds is that when you start low in the register, you're going to have a bit of a closed mouth shape. So even when I eventually move to which is going to happen for me most of the time on E natural, I'm not going to be fully open like I would be on a D natural middle voice, for example. Where on that E, I'm going to be in a bit of a more closed mouth position, which is a little bit counterintuitive, that the higher I would go in the scale and the more dramatic of the note, I would actually be in a more closed mouth position. Okay. There's some apartment next to me that's going nuts. I might not be able to do this very long. So the principle of this tighter mouth shape and this more squeezed feeling of that closed vowel actually will apply to all vowel sounds in the bottom of their top voice. Okay? So O, more open O, and more Italian at A, those are going to be tighter. They're going to feel tighter. They're going to be shaped tighter than what's going to eventually happen when we get to, like, for me, it's going to be F sharp, G, range, even F to some extent. Because I'm not that high of a baritone, so Maybe pretty open on F, to be honest with you, my mouth position. Um, so you can utilize the arpeggio for sure. So if you did "Oh Who Are You" on the D natural, you've got a young student, you might as well take them up to the E flat and the E. This is more of a baritone student that we're talking about here. So he sings "Oh Who Are You" well. "Oh who are you?" Maybe on the E flat. He does it well again. "Oh who are you?" You might encourage him to open his mouth a little on E natural without getting too much into modifying. "Oh who are you?" Okay? And then from there, he's going to have to start to really probably modify that sucker. Maybe if it's really a high baritone, not an F. But he's going to have to start opening it up, and it's not going to be very much of an ooh anymore. Okay? To some extent, that's true on A, closed tight A, and E to some extent as well, before we get into modifying. And then if you feel like that those E naturals, again, you're gonna have to individually apply it to voices. If you feel like the E naturals are coming out well, like he's saying that "oh who" really well, now you might say, can you find that resonance, but sing "ah," and then tell the student what vowel you want them to try to modify it to. Now, this requires you to know the traditional modifying vowels for top voice, which for "ah," it's either going to be or more "o." Now, this is individually dependent. Some singers need that in their sound. Pavarotti did very well with there. Other singers do better with an O, okay? Cheryl Milnes talked about influencing all vowels with oo, okay? Which, the more I experiment with that, the more I like that idea. It can help you get unstuck if you're in a high position. But so, okay, maybe he's saying that "oh who are you" really well on the E, and then you tell him, okay, now try. You could do one of two things. You could make him sing a word that is "the hun is strong." The hun is strong. Or you could force him into starting to modify. So, you don't have to necessarily even do words. You could just do the vowels. And you could tell him when he goes up to that E that he's going to have to pick between and O. I'll let you guys decide which one you think I picked. But likely it's going to be a struggle. He's not going to get it. It's going to come out a little rough. So you really want to, I think when you're starting off as a singer and when you're monitoring your student, you're going to want to make sure that they're making a registered change. Okay? You don't want to let them get away with keeping it open. And reference the Cheryl Milnes masterclass where he's teaching the kid who's singing Banquo's aria for Macbeth. He's saying, you really want to opt for the mud. You want to opt for the mud, the darkness, the over-darkened tone when you're young, because it's going to eventually not be over-darkened, and it's going to allow you to extend your range up properly through top voice. You're going to get cut off about minor third short if you just try to belt it out in middle. Okay? So you can use those kinds of exercises on closed vowels and then extend them up a little. And then you can, if you feel like they're getting the right resonance, you can now make them modify more open vowels, okay? The other way to do this is to encourage that they don't have to sustain yet. And the best way, I believe, is this auga exercise, again, that Milnes references in the Milnes Masterclass, and that I've done this exercise with at least 3 male singers, most notably my dad. We did it all the time. It is it is basically a strength builder. Okay, you're just gonna shout, "Ow, ow, ow, ow," and then you're gonna make your way up the scale with it. "Ow, ow, 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 okay, that is going to get them, anybody really, to be able to make noise in top voice, which when you're starting, that's what you got to do. You got to make noise up there. And you have to, I mean, I know that right now, the way that I'm speaking, it's like all the teachers. It's because probably that's who's going to be able to like utilize, I guess, this information. It's very hard to pass any, like, this part of singing on in any other way but in a voice studio, I feel, at least at the beginning. But if you are watching this and you're not a teacher and you're curious, and you're going to teach yourself how to do it, you have to know it's going to be about a 2 out of 100 in terms of quality when you start. And you've got to know that you're going to have to modify everything. That ooh, if you notice, it's just turning into some neutral noise by the time I'm at F sharp. I'm not singing ooh anymore. It's more hook. So my dad's philosophy was kind of the migrated vowels on the Vennard chart. He's like, just use and choose one of those 4 and know that is going to be for all your E's, is going to be for all your A's, is going to be for your A's, and is going to be for your O's. Okay? That's one way to do it. Now, for some reason, I need a little bit more, I think I require a bit more neutrality than that, and even more like of an O influence than I previously thought, like more shaped, big circle feeling than I previously thought. It keeps my throat down for me to conceptualize it that way. I think it's very individually dependent in this part of your voice. Now, while I say that, when I sing the counts aria now, and I get to the end, I just choose, I have to like just resonate like an ah here. I'm like, it's neutral. I'm just choosing a place where I know that I can feel top voice. I know that when I sing an F sharp at this point on I know where the feeling is, and I just got to go with that feeling, which has been developed over years of trying to get it right and eventually deciding, okay, that's when I have it right. So those arpeggios on closed vowels and then transitioning them to open vowels, whether you want to use just a single vowel exercise, or is up to you, really. Well, whatever you think interrupts the process less. The words are more advanced, and eventually it'll be a good tool when you're getting more advanced at using this register. But anyway, it's a good way to get someone who can already close vowels to start to be able to extend that closure up, even if it's just at the beginning. If you can get them in the first year, if you can get someone who's good at closing vowels up a step, that's a win. By year 2, get them up another step, that's another win. And if by year 2 they're able to start to incorporate uhs, or more open vowels, okay, so that singer who was really good at doing I scream for fun, if they can now move that to the day is bright, that's a win by year 2. That's a more open vowel. That's a more difficult thing to do. Okay? And then the other exercise is going to be your augas, which are just fourths. Okay? And it's not unlike the concept of the previous exercise. You are starting a closed vowel. Au, 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 au. And then as you move up, you just have to bark with a bigger mouth. Okay? So we can talk, I think it's my concluding thought about when you're starting to get into top voice. It's very easy, actually, to discuss the physiology of top voice, of registration. You just got to memorize, some visual images and language about what happens in your vocal cords and in the surrounding musculature. And it's even very easy to talk about the ways to modify vowel sounds when you're in top voice. But you're going to find that the intellectual part of this doesn't matter nearly as much as the physicalized practice and experimentation of this with somebody who can do it. I really believe I think it's actually possible to teach yourself a perfect low and middle as a male singer. I think you have to have a training buddy, a voice teacher, essentially. Or, Corelli did it with a training partner, really. According to his bio and the chapter I read of his, and Great Singers and Great Singing. But you got to be there with somebody else who can show you the way and can individually tune things to your way. And it's going to be ugly as hell. And it's going to take a lot of faith to get through that strangle phase of singing. But I don't think it's worth over-intellectualizing. I think it's worth... the reason I think it's not worth over-intellectualizing is because just it's physically something you just got to start to do with some guiding principles, okay? The guiding principles are you're going to have to modify to neutral vowels. It probably is going to be in that family of 4. You're going to have to probably start with closed vowels to get there, to get the feeling. You're going to need to develop another V in the top. So, of course, we want the voice to go like this. Realistically, it's more like that. And this part is tough to get because you have to shut down your mouth for the turn. And, a half step below is when you're fully open. And then all of a sudden you're a half step up in a whole new register. It's tough to do. And especially as the years go on, what used to be dark and muffled feeling is going to all of a sudden get resonant as hell. And You're going to have to make adjustments all along the way. But yeah, those guiding principles, vowel modification, going to have to get neutral, using closed vowels to get there, understanding that it's a different sensation altogether than middle and low, and knowing where those turns happen. That's super important. So I'm going to list the approximate turning point on ah for every voice type. And I'll do eventually all the vowels listed out, but it's a good thing to know. And, you know, when you're first starting, when you're 18, you might really not know your voice type, but you'll probably be in the ballpark. And you can probably guess within a half step of your voice type when you're 18, probably, unless you have like a really delayed puberty, or you're singing with such a high horrible larynx or such a low horrible larynx, just like a super unsupported sound. Maybe you're like vocally and whatever, that you might really not know. You might be more than a half step away, but probably you're going to be within a half step. It's the most likely case. And so even if you get it wrong for the first year or two, you're going to be damn close enough to make a pretty easy transition in year 3, 4, or 5. And you're going to then just ride that out, and it's going to get better and better as time goes on. But eventually, you're going to have to be able to go up in front of people and sing with confidence and some form of ease, phrases that kill people when they're first starting to sing opera. Marchesani, principesse, d'ogni grado, d'ogni forma, d'ogni età. Eventually you got to do it. And that took 12 years to be able to do that. Just to give a realistic number. It's going to take a long ass time. And if you can't make it, like, totally empathize, because you're not going to get paid money, probably even when you are able to do it. But eventually it's one of the things that you have to master to be able to confidently sing your repertoire and consistently sing your repertoire over and over again. And the best way to start is just to be in there in a practice room with your teacher and mimicking great singers of the past. Okay? You got to do a lot of mimicry. You're going to face plant a lot. It's going to shake your soul how bad you are. Truly, at the beginning. And no fault of your own, not because it's like some impossible concept. It's because the physical maturity that you have in your throat is not prepared yet to deliver operatic noise. And that's just the reality of learning how to sing opera. But you get as close as you can before it is ready, and then when it's ready, it's pretty fun to be able to use that part of your technique. And it's 100% necessary to be able to use that part of your technique for every single voice type across all repertoire. All right, enough of this episode. We're going to start chiseling and getting more detailed in further episodes with Top Voice. But I feel like this is a good intro and a good place for everyone to start. Closed vowels, the auga exercise, and starting to go with the principle of neutralizing vowels. All right. See you soon.